This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppe Hour.
What up? What's happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, and I'm very big on getting my name out there in the Tampa Bay area, which is why I'm interning with Law Smith, who is a very funny local comedian and businessman here in the Bay Area from Toco Works. And live on the show, I'm going to have this man introduce himself because he's a jack of all trades that literally knows and does everything. What's up?
What's up, my man? I appreciate that. My name's Steven Fantetti. I'm a local attorney here in Tampa, Florida.
And how long have you been doing that?
I've been in Tampa for 5 years, been practicing law for 3. Before that, I was a law clerk in the court system of 12th Circuit. I was clerking for some judges, and I was clerking on the law firm in Tampa as well.
Just talk a little louder.
Absolutely.
So what made you want to become a lawyer? Was this a dream kid? Was this a dream as a kid, or how did you become one?
Absolutely, I was a kid. I'm going to tell you this. You're going to laugh at me, and everybody else probably will too, but I started watching Matlock when I was really young. You know that show is for like 80-year-old people.
What's wrong with you?
Hey, man, ask my parents. My dad would call me Matlock. I love that show, man. And seriously, I'd watch them like, man, I want to be in the courtroom. I want to do criminal law. It's hilarious. And then I just always wanted to. My dad's a deputy chief of police back home where I live in Canada, where I'm from. And I've always had like the law around me. We've always talked about it, so kind of just got ingrained in me. But I mean, when I got to law school, I realized I want to do business transactions, and that's what I focus on now.
To me, the most successful people in life are the ones that have the most odd interests as a kid. Like everybody can play quarterback in the backyard, and they want to be Peyton Manning. You wanted to be a lawyer at age 7. I wanted to be a radio talk show host at age 7. So, like, that's why we're doing our thing. It's because everybody thought we were crazy, but we were just pursuing our dreams, you know?
No, I agree with you. I mean, it was either going to be this, or football. So, like you said, you got that one-track mind where as long as you stay focused on the same, line of where you see yourself going, whatever anybody else says doesn't matter. Because I had friends, they want to be 10 different things, and no one really even knows what they want to do, and that's okay. But again, like you said, if we know what we want, it's just a lot easier to kind of focus on it.
Was there ever a point, though, when you wanted to give up, maybe during hard times or during school, or did you always have your eye on the prize?
No, I never wanted to give up. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, the one thing about this job, you can do it forever. I mean, you can practice law as long as you want to. So really, it's always going to be there. It's not like playing football. When I got finished playing college football and I was doing pre-draft workouts and things like that.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was going to go and play pro in Canada in the CFL. I then did some combine workouts. So that's a job or a sport where you realize, okay, you can't do this forever or it's not going to last.
Yeah.
You got to start making decisions. So once I realized I was going to give that up, I'm like, I'm definitely going to law school because it's something I've always wanted to do. It's like a no-brainer where people need take a year off, you know what I mean, or do things like that before they decide about their passion. I just stepped from one passion into the other.
So what was it like playing football? Where'd you play at?
I played college football at Michigan Tech University.
And how close were you to playing in the CFL? Like, how was your whole football career? I'm very fascinated by this.
Well, in high school, I played quarterback, and I played like AAU ball. We have in Canada, you can play football all year round. And I played defensive back, and I got recruited by different schools to play different positions. And then when I finally signed with Michigan Tech, they wanted me to play wide receiver. I was more of an athlete, I could play a couple different positions, and I was fast. And I'll tell you what, my college career was okay. It wasn't the way I always wanted to go. It was fine. I thought my coach didn't give me the kind of break I wanted, but people sometimes always say that. But I'll tell you this, eventually you realize this, and I have no shame in saying this, there's better players out there than you realize. Like, you go to these workouts and you realize there's people there, the players are just like man-childs. They're just minimum boys. You can tell certain people are meant to do it. And I was good, but I just wasn't good enough. And I have no problem saying that.
Do you think there are some players that would be great if they were given a chance and they just go by the wayside, maybe in the pre-draft or at a tryout?
Yeah, I do think that. And number one, even for myself, I thought about it. I'm like, well, do I really want to give this up? Because you have no idea. Like, when you're giving it up, you can never go back. As you get older, your talent's not going to be the same. Your joints aren't going to feel the same. You're not going to be the best kind of shape you're going to be in. And it's the same thing. Like, I always wondered, well, if I give it up, it's over, it's gone. And so those guys that are working out, like you said, in like the young pre-draft workouts, there's always somebody who can rise above it. You see guys coming from small schools, even like I did. You see guys coming who are undrafted free agents, like Malcolm Butler last year in the Super Bowl, who intercepted Russell Wilson on the goal line. That guy was undrafted, and he played like 1 year of college football. He got in trouble. He's working at Chick-fil-A the year before. So, yeah, there are always guys that are going to come out of nowhere that can have a shot.
Arian, what's his name, from the Texans?
Arian
he was
Foster?
undrafted.
Yeah, he was. He went to Tennessee, University of Tennessee, but he was undrafted too. You're right.
And half the players on the Packers seem like they're undrafted. Like, that team knows how to scout everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think they have it down right in the Patriots, man. For some reason, they can really just scout and figure out ways to get players on the cheap, and they kind of know what fits their system. Because those are system teams, you know what I mean? Packers are a system team. They got to fit Aaron Rodgers' system on offense. They got to be able to run deep routes if you're looking at receivers. So, yeah, I mean, it's just you have to fit the system, and a lot of guys can't be system guys.
I just don't know how good the Packers are, because they're decent during the regular season, but the time they won the Super Bowl, they beat Atlanta and the Bears in the postseason, and then they beat Pittsburgh barely. So what I'm getting at is I just don't know how great that team is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and look, I mean, Aaron's not getting any older either, so they're going to have to really make another push. He's already got one Super Bowl, but, I mean, they're talking about Eddie Lacy's got to lose weight. They're talking about different changes they got to make because at the receiver position, Jordy Nelson got hurt this year. It took them like 12 weeks to find their go-to guys. So it's like, yeah, they have to really make sure that if they're going to be the real deal, they got to narrow down more positions and they got to draft better.
What teams do you root for in the NFL?
NFL, Dallas Cowboys, man. I get hated on for it all the time. I love
Actually,
Dallas.
I heard a report they're the second most hated team now. The Patriots took the top spot, so you're not a complete embarrassment.
Oh, good. I feel better. But listen, maybe this will redeem me a bit, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are my second favorite NFL team. And I go to games all the time, and I always root for them. I always want to see them do well. But Dallas, I've been a fan since I was probably 4 years old. It was the first team I watched on TV with my father. And that's kind of why it always stuck with me.
I respect that. I hate the bandwagon jumpers.
Yeah, no, I've been through these tough years, man, lately. We haven't had any playoff wins or anything in a long time, and Romo keeps getting hurt. So
what about the fact that Greg Hardy was allowed to play? What was your take on that as a Cowboys fan?
You know, that's a really good question. They actually cut him recently, too, so he's not going to be there next year. But the fact that they gave him a shot, you know what? I think the NFL's got a process where it's trying to be consistent. As long as the courts make a decision on your case, I think that the discipline that follows, which they made him sit out, 4 or 5 games before he could even come back.
Yeah.
You know, if he wasn't, found more liable or guilty in a court of law, the NFL couldn't punish him extra. So they had their own standard. To me, that's fine.
I hated the Cowboy fans that were cheering for him. I'm like, how moronic and how dumb are you? You know?
For cheering for him, what, like as a
even
fan?
If he gets a sack, you should not be cheering for Greg Hardy.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you this. I think when you're struggling the way the Cowboys are for wins and to get into the playoffs, and they see a pass rusher like him, they're going to cheer for him no matter what. And think about this. They got a history of cheering for criminals. That team's been having trouble on their team
even
since the early 90s. What's
Michael Irvin was on coke, even when they were good.
Well, there was more guys than him that were on it, and that's my point. I mean, they were getting guys who were getting arrested all the time. They're still playing. You know, Jerry Jones drafts like that. He wants Johnny Manziel.
Have fun with that, Jerry. That team will never be good until he dies.
You're probably
He is
right.
an embarrassment to that team. He literally ruined everything by getting rid of Jimmy Johnson. His ego couldn't handle it.
Well, that's what people say. I mean, I don't really know because even when they got rid of him, they still won the Super Bowl with Barry Switzer. I think in '95.
But they had all the same
Steelers.
players. That's what every sports analyst says is, of course they're going to win. They had his players.
That's like talking about when Steve Kerr won last year, but Mark Jackson was coaching the Warriors right before. It's kind of interesting how that happened, too.
But I think Kerr was the game changer. That's a little different. Mark Jackson was average.
You think so?
I think Kerr was the game changer. He is a basketball mind. If you ever hear him break down basketball when he was on TNT or even in like NBA 2K, that dude knows his ball.
NBA 2K in the video game.
Yeah. He breaks it down real well.
He breaks it down hard in the game. I'll tell you this, though. I think Mark Jackson is a great coach. I actually wanted him to take over the Cavaliers job. But and this was before they even got David Blatt. I thought they were going to give Mark a shot. But there's something about him I like. I think he's fiery. If you think about it, he got Golden State to where they were. They were nothing until Mark Jackson put that team together.
Valid point.
So that's what I mean. Steve Kerr above all. I think Mark Jackson brought it there.
What is your take on where the NBA is at? Because I love the NBA more than anything. I think it's surpassed the NFL just because the NFL is a joke now. But I haven't had time to watch the NBA this year. I want to watch it. I'm going to start watching it.
Yeah.
But what's your take on this season so far?
Well, in terms of revenue, the NBA hasn't passed the NFL. But I'll tell you this. The NBA is a model for getting their game around the globe. And that's what's made the NBA big. David Stern had a big hand in that. And that's probably one of the main reasons why the NBA is on the rise. And I totally agree with you. Because listen, it's my favorite sport to watch in the entire world. I love the NBA. I cannot get enough of it. This year is probably one of the best years it's had because the All-Star Weekend it had this year was one of the best it's had in a very long time. They say that the dunk contest that they had this year was one of the best that there's ever been.
And every dunk contest the last 10 years has been atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the last one I watched that was good was when Vince Carter was in like 2002 maybe was put his elbow in the rim and he was tearing out when he was still with the Raptors. That was probably the last best most hyped dunk contest. And then before that, I mean, it was probably in the 80s between Dominic Wilkins and Jordan. I mean, really, there's only a couple that stand out in my mind. But the one they had this past Saturday, the one that you couldn't watch because you were watching Neighbors with your girl, I'll tell you what, man. Let me tell you something. It'll stand out as one of those.
Shots fired.
It'll stand out as one of those dunk contests that'll live the test of time as well.
What was the game like with Kobe Bryant? Like, what was the vibe like with him?
The All-Star game?
Yeah.
Well, everyone pretty much was bound down to him. I mean, they pretty much made it all about him the whole time, which is fine. I'm actually a Kobe fan, and he brought a lot to the game. It's sad because he's the last of a dying breed. Those good players from the 90s that were drafted to have that killer instinct.
Yeah.
I mean, now everybody's friends. Kobe doesn't probably have friends he can count on like one hand. So, but he was good. People wanted to go one-on-one with him. I think LeBron had put a picture up on his Instagram I saw where Kobe had the ball and he was going out on one-on-one, and he's like, I'm going to put this up in my house to get this framed. So guys were kind of looking for that moment to kind of be on TV with him, go one-on-one. I mean, Kobe did fine. But, at the end of the day, you can tell that he's not the same player as he always was.
Who was the MVP this year?
It was Russell Westbrook, who also won it last year.
Yeah, he wins every year.
Well, 2 years in a row. Yeah, it's big. He, to me, is the most dynamic player in the NBA.
He just
no one plays harder than him.
Selfish.
Yeah,
he needs to quit being selfish at times.
Well, but no one plays harder than him though, because you can say about guys maybe they're selfish, but there's guys who take nights off. They won't go hard. If you watch a rookie game of Russell Westbrook and you watch a game of Russell Westbrook now, there is no difference in terms of energy, in terms of fight, in terms of will.
He gets better each year too.
He does, but he needs KD. This is the thing. KD's got one more year left on his contract. And then he's open into free agency. But Russell Westbrook's almost up too. So they're going to have a big dilemma. Is KD just going to sign for 1 year and wait until Russell Westbrook's contract runs out the year after and then stay in Oklahoma City? Or is Kevin Durant just going to leave and do his own thing? Because Washington, where he's from, is going to look to nab him. The Lakers are going to have cap room because Kobe's going to be gone.
The Lakers.
Well, hey, man, people are saying speculation. I agree with you. I think he's going to stay in Oklahoma City with Russ.
I could see him maybe joining the Wizards. But why would you go from making the playoffs to joining the Lakers?
Well,
you know what I mean?
If you think about it, once Kobe's expiring contract's done and he leaves, that's a lot of cap room. They've got Julius Randle. They've got the point guard they just got out of Ohio State, whose name's eluding me for some reason.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a lot of young talent to develop around. So to me, I think with Kevin Durant there, with the draft picks that they got from the trades they made, they still have Brandon Bass coming off the bench. I mean, they got some pretty good players. They can make a push. And Kevin Durant has a home in Hollywood, I guess. And he goes there every summer, trains in Hollywood. He's always in L.A. So I think it is more attractive to him than like people think. It is an option.
How nice that must be to have a home that you never go to, but you're like, I'll just go there during the summer when I feel like it. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to get there, man. I hear you.
How big do you want to make it in life? Because I have my eye on the prize. I want to be the next 102.5 The Bone host, the next Opie, the next Howard, anybody in radio. I want to be that name.
There you go.
So for you, how big do you want to be?
Well, obviously you never want to put any limitations on how you can grow and on your development. For me, I just started my own firm. I've been in-house counsel, corporate legal counsel for a couple different businesses here the past couple of years in Tampa. I decided to go out on my own. I got my own firm, Fantetti Legal. That's at fantettilegal.com if you want to check out the website. Toko Works, actually, Law Smith, your protege there.
Hell yeah.
Did a great job. They did a great job. All my marketing, branding, setting up my website. They did a great job. So, I have no limits. I want my firm to be one of the premier business law firms in Tampa. I want to represent every company that I can. I want their business.
How does it work? Could you expand to different parts of America even though you're here? Like, how does the law work? Like, could you be in the Midwest even though you're located in Tampa?
Absolutely. And a lot of big firms do that. The most important thing you got to know is if you yourself are going to step into a court and practice law, you can only do it in the states where you're licensed, which means you pass the bar exam in that state. So I've got Florida. Or if you get waived into a different state, I'm going to get waived into Michigan bar, hopefully in April. That's my plan, and I'll be able to practice law in Michigan as well. And so I've got some friends that work in Michigan that I've been talking to that are lawyers, that they got their own shop. And so eventually I'd like them, I want to expand my firm up there as well, and they can all work under my firm's name, Fantetti Legal. We can just keep it growing from there. So that's also one of my goals, is to expand as many states as we can.
How many lawyers do that? Like, how often does that happen? Because a lot of radio shows syndicate into different cities. So is that what lawyers do a lot?
I don't think they do it a lot. I mean, there's a lot of big firms and they expand, but in terms of, it takes years, I guess, before you can get to that level, because the amount of growth you have to go through, you have to find good people to work for you. You can't just put anybody in your firm. You got to have your business running properly. You have to make sure you have a lot of compliance, problems that you're going to have to end up dealing with. And once you kind of overcome some of those obstacles, you're in a position for growth. That's the best thing, because a lot of people, they try to grow too fast, and they either go bankrupt or they shut down or they got to stay in one state. So for me, it's a process. So and I want to make sure I do it right. And the most important thing for me right now is representing the businesses that are in Tampa, Florida, and throughout the state of Florida. And once, I get that niche down and I can establish my firm more, then I'll obviously look otherwhere else to expand the firm.
How much competition do you have around here? Is it unreal?
I think it is. There's always, I think actually Florida has, I think, the highest amount of attorneys out of any state.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because the weather, and they have more stringent bar exam guidelines where you can't get reciprocity. But you know what? I think competition's a good thing. I think you have to. It makes you be more innovative. At least for me, you look at the services you're offering and what you can do for companies. You have to also be competitive with your pricing. So, you got to be able to look at everything. I think it makes you a better lawyer. I think it makes you a better businessman when you have competition, and you have to be more hungry. So I actually welcome it.
What's the lawyer whole area like? Because in radio, it's a small world where everybody knows somebody, and a lot of people from one radio company in Tampa know the other radio company.
Sure.
So, like, is it a small world when it comes to lawyers? Like, do you know a lot of lawyers in the area?
I do know a lot of lawyers in the area. And you're right, it's absolutely a small world, because as you practice, you're going to go up against different attorneys, or you're going to meet them at bar association, functions, or you're just going to meet friends of yours. Like, I met friends of mine through other lawyers, and now they become really good friends just because you end up going out somewhere for a drink and they bring their friends, or someone else met up with them and you meet them and they become part of your group of friends. I got a group of friends that we hang out a lot, and it's like 5 or 6 of us, and we're all
Should be played
lawyers.
at high volume.
Some of us even went to law school together, and we all live down here. So yeah, you'd be surprised. It's a network where it's based a lot on even referrals, where let's say someone calls me, Ryan, and they say they have a certain case in the area of law that I don't practice in. I will know one of my friends will practice that law, and I'll call him and refer that case to him. So it's a big network.
This might be the most obvious thing I'll ask you about. How big can the egos get in the lawyer world?
No, listen, I see what you're saying, and they can get big. They can get very big. I mean, you see billboards out here and commercials that some of these guys have. I'm not going to name any names, but you can kind of, get a sense of what their egos are like. But, again, it's all about business to some of these guys. And to me, it's more about relationships, too, than just the business, because relationships last, businesses come and go. So, the egos sometimes do get in the way, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't get in the way from me. But, every attorney's different.
I'm the same way, man. There's no reason to have that big of an ego in life, especially with social media, where it's easy to know somebody, because then you're just going to burn a bridge, and you're not going anywhere then.
Yeah, I hear you with that. That's absolutely true, and that's in all things. So not even just business.
Now, I want to get your take on this. When it comes to the law,
Yeah.
why aren't we more tough on DUIs? Like, is it fair when I say that we need to be more tough on them and that lawyers are scumbags at times because they get people off? Like, basically, I'll break it down like this.
Sure.
Why do people keep getting second and third chances after the first DUI, and why aren't we tougher on them?
Sure. And you know what? There might not even be an exact answer to that in terms of why they are or are not more tough. The most important factor is the law's got sentencing guidelines, and it's all based on punishment. And so they basically know people are going to slip up and make a mistake somewhere. So they don't want to punish you the first time too hard, too harshly, because everyone makes a mistake. Now, I'm with you. If you're going to slip up 2, 3, 4 times or even cause a death like we saw recently here,
Yeah.
you know, to me, that's excessive. If someone does this once or even, 2 or even 3 times, it's just too much. And I think sentencing guidelines are set in stone. A lot of it's lobbied. A lot of it's done through, legislation where they, set what those parameters should be in terms of what the punishments are. But the most important thing you have to realize, too, is with DUI cases, and I think you even alluded where you're saying, these scumbag lawyers are taking people and getting them off, and they're kind of going scot-free, or they're able to drive again because they're pleading down maybe what their DUI was. But there's a lot of mistakes made in DUI cases.
Like what?
Well, breathalyzers aren't always accurate. There's dash cam videos of police cars that show, people taking roadside tests, and it's very, sometimes too subjective from one point of view, saying that person didn't pass it, whereas someone else could say that they did. So it kind of lacks objectivity sometimes. Plus, even if there's a situation where people weren't read their rights properly, or someone was kind of taken in because they were stopped for a certain reason where they had no cause, and then they found out that they're drunk, well, that violates the Constitution and due process. So, again, just because people get DUIs, there's also kinks in the system that the authorities sometimes commit, and people shouldn't even be punished for DUI. So that's the reason why they keep the system so open, because there is mistakes sometimes that officers make, or even in the way that the laws are structured, that they have to account for all these different situations. So it's an imperfect system. That's at the end of the day, we all have to accept it. Whether or not they're going to be more strict after 2 DUIs, I would wish that they would, because everyone thinks it's not a problem until maybe one of their loved ones or someone they know.
It's a problem even if you drive buzzed. Like, I always make
Yeah.
it a plan in my life because I don't want to
Yeah.
lose my radio career, and I don't want to put my life or anybody else's on the line. I'm never going to even drive buzzed. When I know I'm going to get a little bit turned up on the weekend, as the cool kids say, I always plan out an Uber. Like, it just makes
That's
me
it.
so sick, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's so preventable. Murder's not preventable. Rape isn't. But all you have to do
about
is
that.
not get that drunk or plan it out. Just don't put the keys in the ignition. It makes me so angry, dude.
I agree. I mean, you can get a DUI just sitting in your car in the front seat, even if and the car is on and you're not even driving it. So again, they have things in place where they're trying to make people stringent. But you're right. You should not be getting behind the wheel, even if you're buzzed, because one drink, you never know if it's going to impair your judgment, even if you think you don't meet the blood alcohol limit. So, I think this area, and I'm actually glad you raised it. I don't practice this type of law, this area of law, but I think it's something where people are getting too many breaks in the law sometimes, and they really need to change it. And I think there's no problem with more enforcement, given the fact that driving a car, it's like a weapon. You are in control of something that can cause detrimental harm and serious death to somebody. Why would you not want to make sure you're protecting people more? And I think the laws right now in this area, they aren't doing that.
Do you think there's going to be a breaking point where people finally look in the mirror and say we need to be harder on DUI drivers, even if it's the first time? Because, dude, we can watch Adult Swim or watch Comedy Central late at night, and they'll have those PSAs, or we can listen to the radio. But to me, until we begin having convictions on the first DUIs, or we begin getting harder on them, I just think it's going to keep on happening.
Yeah, I think, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, with sentencing guidelines the way they are, you can't give too harsh of a punishment. It's going to be cruel and unusual punishment. It violates, the whole, status of the way our country values our laws and how we're punishing people. So I don't think you're ever going to get first offense, extreme penalties or jail
It should.
time.
Until then, I think it should be a minimum of 9 months in jail if you get a DUI. Because
First
then,
time?
dude, here's what would happen.
Go ahead.
Dude, it'd be genius. then everyone goes, I don't want to be like that Joe Schmo that's in every commercial that had to spend 9 months of their life in jail. That would prevent drunk driving. Until then,
Would it,
people
though?
won't get it.
Yes,
it would help.
I was going to say,
it wouldn't hurt the cause.
Yeah, maybe you're right. All I know is I think it's like you can add on those periods of time, but people aren't going to stop drinking and driving.
I think it would help, dude. I really think.
Oh, I think anything
if
will
you
help
pushed
more.
a law and you made it immediate and you said a minimum of 9 months. Because come on, what's DUI school doing? What's probation doing? Probation is basically don't get caught, and then DUI school is them just sitting there pretending they care or going to rehab. Like, I just feel like it's easy to get away with a DUI, and it makes me so angry, dude, because we wonder, why is it happening, dude? We wonder, how can we fix it? It's right in front of us, dude. Be tougher.
Listen, everything you're saying, I can definitely echo and stand behind it. But, I think, too, even just getting a DUI, though, and especially when you're young, which is terrible because you shouldn't be starting a pattern
9 months, either way.
Of your life, of drinking and driving young. But my point is, if you have one of those on your record, though, it still doesn't look good. If you apply for a job, you got to disclose it sometimes.
You have to explain it every time.
Yeah, or, it even hurts you from, your license gets suspended. You can't drive your car. Unless you get a waiver to just go to the grocery store, go to your job, and that's it. So they suspend it for a year. So, it still hurts. They still do things with the punishment.
But they're not behind bars.
Right. But at the end of the day, though, Ryan, and I honestly challenge you to think about it this way. This is one area of the law where there's obviously issues where you think the punishments might not be enough. But I can tell you plenty of other situations and areas in the law where there's also punishments that are supposed to be preventative and stop people from acting a certain way, and people still do those things.
Expand my mind. Crimes. What are those punishments?
Well, think about it. Murder, you can get life sentences. People will still kill. What's a better sentence than facing an electric chair? Or
I just think,
see what I mean?
If we put it on DUIs, it would help somewhat. I just think we are so lenient.
Yeah.
And then tell me this. Is there a lot of somebody knows somebody who knows the judge that can help give my friend off or help give my hot daughter off? Does that happen? Because
I don't know, man. Because you know what?
How dirty does it get?
Well, it's usually the DA who you plea bargain with, and then you present it to the judge.
How often does that happen? Now, you can say so or say not, but how often are there favors given where it's like, okay, we'll help you out if you do? Like, how dirty does it get?
I have no personal knowledge. Like I said, I don't practice that area of law. I've heard stories where people have certain relationships with maybe the DA or the prosecutor.
That's what I'm saying.
And they cut some kind of deal. I've never been involved in anything like that, obviously, because I don't practice that area of law. But all I can say is there's one thing that I was thinking of, because it's funny you talked about this with me. There's someone that I know from law school that lives in New York that I talked to about kind of the stuff that he's working on. He does DUI type cases, and I asked him. I said, do you think this will ever come to an end where they'll kind of just basically tell people, you know what, we're going to change the law, make it completely punitive, and then it's over with? And then we were saying, well, what if they put a machine in your car? Every single car has a machine. Before your car can turn on, you have to blow into your car.
Do it. Fine.
But think about that. If your car can't turn on, you can't drive drunk. So why don't we just have every single automobile company?
We are reaching an epidemic, bro.
Well, think about it. Wouldn't that work? Rather than having changing all these punishment laws, why don't you just make it a mandate where every car, before it can turn on, you have to blow into this system, then it gets cleared, or however that system would work. Because actually, I don't know if you know this, but part of the punishments, if you get 1 or 2 or even 3 DUIs, I think it's after your second, you have to actually have one of those machines built into your car, and you can't drive until you blow into it and you get cleared by the state. But not every car comes equipped with that when it leaves the Ford plant or the GM plant. But I'm saying if they passed legislation and made that, mandatory for every single car to have that and everyone to drive, that would change it. The problem is that's too outlandish, because you're not always drinking every time of the day. People are in a rush, and people have to use their cars and go places, and to blow in it and then wait. Obviously people think it would just cause too much of a detriment on their everyday life and then their time. So again, that's the problem, is what do we value more? Do we value our time? Do we value how fast our society is moving? Or do we value road safety? And do we value maybe people, we need to do something else because the laws aren't working the way they're written? So this is a big dilemma that you're posing. And again, there's lots of different avenues people can take. But again, there's too many questions raised because you have too much lobbying for one side versus the other.
I'm going to be the advocate for the people my age, and I'm going to be the person that expands their mind. I want in my lifetime DUI charges to get harsher because nobody says anything. We're becoming numb to it. It's just the norm. Every night when I drive home from here, I see drunk drivers, and it's like, I think it's because we're not tough on it enough. And frankly, I've never driven drunk. Frankly, I never will, but I feel like it's pretty easy. Just don't get caught. And there's so many cars compared to how many cops on the road that you have a good chance of getting home. So I just think we are at this epidemic where it's becoming disrespectful that people think they can do what they want. Yeah. And if you want to ask him anything and you're watching via Hoppe TV, message me right now. I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
The lady who has 3 prior DUIs and had a license, she's driving down to Howard Franklin very drunk. And what happened was she ends up hitting a hardworking tow truck driver who had just 16 inches from the road as he was trying to get rid of one of the cars that was just hanging on the side of the Howard Franklin. Yeah. And this dirty, rotten, dumbass, classless piece of dirt bitch ends up hitting him and taking his life.
Yeah, unbelievably sad.
Shouldn't this be the epidemic that changes everything? Dude, I think she should be the game changer when we think about it. I mean, isn't that enough to change things?
Listen, I agree with you 100%, but think about this way. And it's funny how I have to bring this back to the NBA, but you know who Malik Sealy is?
Yeah.
He died in early 2000s. He was teammates with Kevin Garnett.
I was about to say on the Timberwolves.
Yes, he was driving back from Kevin Garnett's like 22nd birthday party or whatever it was. And this guy who had his 4th or 5th DUI was driving the opposite way in the lane that he was not supposed to be in and hit Malik Sealy dead on and killed Malik Sealy. Again, this was, 15, 16 years ago. It wasn't corrected then. The same thing just happened here now that you're talking about. So clearly nothing's being done at all.
I just think it's sad that we talk about weed, gay marriage, abortion. This is something that needs to be looked at. It's something that no one ever thinks about, dude. No one even...
No. That's what I was trying to tell you. If the same event should have been a wake-up call back then, and you're saying it should have been a wake-up call now, where are we in society? Because this keeps happening every day.
Michelle Obama to get hit, or somebody important for it even to be discussed. I don't know, man.
I don't know. Because listen, it's the same thing with gun control laws. How many schools need to be shut up? How many innocent children have to die before we change gun control legislation? That's another example, like you and I were talking about, enlightening your mind on different issues. These same events keep happening, but do we see changes in legislation? We don't, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to see a change in anything. And going into that, you said when we were hanging out at Toco Works, Law Smith's business in Ybor City, you were saying that you're well-versed in this election. Break it down for me because I don't know jack squat about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I obviously follow it all, and I watch every single debate, and I'm obviously a fan of politics. I can't vote in this country because I'm a Canadian citizen, but
that sucks.
Yeah, I'm going to be a dual citizen though within the next 2 years, so then I'll be able to do that. But obviously on the Democrat side, you've got Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton battling it out. Hillary had leads in almost every state many months ago where it looked like she had it on lock, and now Bernie Sanders is climbing back, and he's right there with her. I mean, they're pretty even in delegates. He actually took New Hampshire from her, where they thought she was going to win. She barely edged him out in Iowa. People are still thinking that the vote wasn't accurate. So, the Democratic race is a wide open race. And usually these things can be decided upon pretty early. But the Republican side is where a lot of the drama is because they're just taking shots at each other left and right. Donald Trump looks like he's the leader right now in the clubhouse to get the nomination. But, things always change. Jeb Bush is trying to still battle, but he's far back. Marco Rubio's kind of right there. But it's mostly, a three-headed race with Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio, I think. And whether one of them will outlast the other, I don't know. Trump's support is large right now. I mean, even in South Carolina, he's polling amazingly. He also won New Hampshire. I think he came in second in Iowa. So, he's doing everything you need to do to last to the end, where people usually die out around this time. I think people have already dropped. I don't know if you know Rick Santorum's dropped
Rand
out.
Paul dropped out.
Rand Paul, Chris Christie, those guys are all gone.
I don't know why Jeb's even in it. I don't know if he's just trying to live up to his brother and his dad. But
maybe I guess he's still getting money. He thinks he still has a chance. He had George Bush was just there, his brother in South Carolina campaigning with him, where George Bush was very popular, won that state when he was running for president. So during these time. So, I mean, look, he thinks he still has a chance. I think if he gets destroyed in South Carolina, I think he will back out. But, that Bush name, believe it or not, still carries weight in the country, whether negative or positive.
It's weird because like 10 years ago, 8 years ago when we first had Obama, everybody blamed Bush. And I feel like as time went on, Obama's the person we blame, and Bush is going on shows like Ellen and all these daytime shows, being the lovable Texan.
Yeah.
I think we are forgetting how awful of a president he is.
Listen, I mean, that's definitely one way to look at it. I know a lot of old school Republicans love him and think he did no wrong and can do no wrong. And there's a large portion of the population throughout the U.S. that think that. There's a lot of old school Republicans. The only thing I hate, Ryan, and I think you'll appreciate this, and I've heard this the other day, is everybody like Donald Trump and a lot of the other Republicans say this. They say, we need to restore America, right? And make America great again. Which means they're basically saying, and I'm not Democrat or Republican. I have no party affiliations here. I'm just a mere observer, but think about this, and I want you to actually answer this for me. If they're saying make it a great again and take our country back, what has Obama done so bad in the past 8 years, considering what he was handed?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
everyone forgets.
If they're saying make it great again, you mean you want to go back to deficits, Wall Street taking over everybody's money? You want to go back to a huge war? We're
Thank
overspending?
you.
How is that taking back America? What are the Republicans going to do that? Go back to that? That's what I'm kind of confused about.
I don't know anything about it, but I will say this. We all forget how awful Bush was.
I mean, there was bad decisions made by his whole administration, whether it was just him, whether Dick Cheney, But, I mean, look, it's not the easiest job in the world, and I kind of look at it from a different point of view because you have to respect that position and whoever the president is. But, I think Congress gets in the way a lot. And
John Boehner.
Well, he's gone now, but
now it's Paul Ryan, right?
Paul Ryan.
See, I know
speaker.
something, dude.
You do. I'm impressed. I thought you just picked that name out of the air. So, I mean, whether he'll keep his speakership this coming November, the Congress has a lot of elections up for grabs where perhaps the majority might sway back to the Democrats. I don't know. So remember, whoever speaker is whichever party has the majority in Congress. So right now it's the Republicans. So he's still going to be speaker. So whether or not he still will be, we'll have to see. But, it's just, to me, it's funny how they say that because administrations, like George Bush's, they don't, look positively on history right now. Whether history will be kind to him later, people say it will because they say he defended America. They say that, there's been no more attacks on the homeland since, not in 9/11 because he got more tougher. But then there's people that say the inverse, Ryan, where, he missed out on crucial information, his administration, that could have prevented 9/11.
And he put us in the war.
Exactly. There was no yellow cake uranium in Iraq to go in there and remove Saddam Hussein. People say this, and this is the big dilemma too, and it's all philosophical. Are we better off having Muammar Gaddafi out of power and Saddam Hussein out of power because they were dictators and they were bad to their people and oppressors, or are we not better off taking them out because they could have prevented the growth of, ISIS and all these other types of militant groups that are now running rampant throughout the Middle East? Would they be able to run rampant with Saddam and Muammar Gaddafi still in power, kicking people out? So, again, it's a double-edged sword, and really, there's no real answer to it.
Damn, dude, you just expanded my mind. You had me at like George Bush, Iraq War.
It's just these are things people need to think about, especially, and honestly, I worry because I'm going to be involved in the political process one day. I definitely plan to be, but young people need to young people. Well, I definitely plan to hopefully try to run for office one day if I can serve. I would love to, whether it's in the state house in Florida or even beyond that. But look, it's important for young people to understand and look back at these things that have happened the past 2 decades, millennials, whatever people want to call them, because we're the next generation coming up that has to make decisions for this country.
I know.
And if we don't consider and look at these mistakes and look at what's been happening, whether it's on Wall Street or whether it's with the administrations making decisions overseas in foreign affairs, we need to smarten up and we need to take a different approach and a different strategy, or else things could get a lot worse.
I think The biggest problem is that nobody really respects us. So they're not really trying to help us or get us ready for when we turn, what is it, like, how old do you have to be president? Like 36?
I believe it's 35, 36,
Whatever it
something
is.
like that. It's Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. Yeah, it's about 35.
Basically, I don't think they want to help us because until they die, people in their 40s or 50s or even older want to have that gig. So I think it's going to be weird in about 15 years when we're all able to become president, everybody our age. I think it'll be unique to see how ready everybody is my age, or if we will go down a bad spiral, because there is something with everyone my age.
Yeah.
We do get a lot of flack, and we deserve it. But at the second time, I think with social media and middle-aged people trying to be cranky, they kind of put too much blame on us. I think we deserve our bad reputation, but I think our bad reputation is over the top.
Yeah, and listen, I definitely agree with you.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. But here's the one thing I can tell you is if there is a bad reputation, like you're saying, there's a way to fix that right now. If you're eligible to vote and you can get involved, then vote and make a change. If people,
I don't want to vote.
Well,
they don't care about us, bro.
But listen, if you want to vote Bernie Sanders in, which all these young millennials want to, and you want to see big changes,
because of that free school thing or whatever.
Good for them. And listen, hey, I know. Listen, but all I'm trying to say is basically, if you think about it, is you're saying when young people are going to be older within 10, 15 years and maybe have the ability to maybe put their hat in the ring to be in political office or even run for a president, getting involved now might set the stage for where the country's going to be. And if you want it, if you're young and you want it to be in a positive direction, then get involved and get someone different in office. You know what I mean? If you don't like what's going on. So you can't, it's easy to sit in the cheap seats and do nothing and just bloviate about how bad you think things are, versus actually saying you've gotten involved, you've worked on a campaign, or you've assisted, or you voted, and you've done something to help make it different, so that by the time you are in that arena where you can make changes, you've at least maybe put forth a positive direction for our future. Because right now, who knows who gets in next, if things might just stay the same the way they are.
I think the biggest problem is I think people want to be president for the thing to say that they were president, for the power trip. I don't think they care about us. I don't think anybody running, maybe Bernie, but I don't think any of them actually care about helping us average Joes. And that's why I'm not going to vote, is they can all kiss my ass, especially Ted Cruz, that fake piece of shit. And I never swear, but that motherfucker has all these bloopers where he's trying to make his kid kiss him. He's like, kiss me on the cheek real quick. And she's like, ew, Dad, no. And he looks at the fucking camera like, oh, TMZ's going to get this. Or fucking, what's his name? And I never swear on here. But fucking Marco Rubio.
You don't like
It's
it?
like a robot reading things twice in a row. Have you seen that video where he's like,
I
Obama is
watched the
affecting the economy and he needs to be condemned for it and I will fix it?
Yeah, he was saying President Obama
needs
doesn't know
to
what he's
fix
doing, but he knows what he's doing.
And he
Yeah.
said it like twice in a row.
Yeah.
And if you
And
look
Chris
at all
Christie
the
called him out.
supporters in the
Yeah.
background, they're all like, what's going on?
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you this. I mean, you're right, but I think it doesn't even start there. I think people make the argument that people, like you said, people want to be president just to say they were president, right? Isn't that what you were saying?
Yes.
Just to have that kind of title. Well, I think people even get it in lower political offices, even just being in Congress. They kind of just get happy that they're there. They just want the prestige of that, and they don't really want to take proper action or vote their conscience and vote for their districts. They kind of just toe the party line sometimes, and they don't really, perform the right services to their constituents who elected them into office that they should be, performing. So I think it starts way below even just being president, because if you think about it, I think that makes sense, because our presidents are usually people served in lower offices, Congress, Senate, maybe even state houses or governorships. So I think it starts way earlier than just saying president.
What if Trump, now maybe Congress and everybody would sort of like make him get normal and they would shoot down a lot of his ideas. But what if a guy with no experience, who's a businessman, is what we need?
Well, listen, I was having this conversation with my wife the other day, and even my parents too, is I'm saying, look, the way it's been, it's always a career politician. It's always someone who kind of is kind of afraid to kind of rock the boat. There's no real groundbreaking legislation that we've seen in a long time. I credit President Obama because he's tried. whether it was to get health care for people. I don't necessarily like Obamacare, but I think it's a good idea. But I don't think it should be forced upon people sometimes. But you know what? It's a good idea in general, so you have to look at it in the abstract. But you know, I think ultimately what's most important is that maybe trying something new isn't a bad idea. But what do you think he'll do? That's like Bernie. Bernie isn't your typical politician. He's got revolutionary ideas. Maybe that's not too bad to try for a term.
Socialist?
What's that?
Everyone says he's a socialist.
Well,
is
he kind of almost quasi-admitted it. He won't say he's a full-blown socialist, but he says he's a socialist Democrat. But look, if you put Trump in, the good thing about our country, you can say good or bad, is you get one term. You either do good or bad or you're out. So if you gave Trump a term, would he make things so bad within 4 years that our country would be in a worse situation? Or do you think he would rock the boat and try something different? To me, you know, I would love to see something different because every politician's kind of saying the same things right now as they're running. You know, we need a better national defense. That's great, but they don't have a plan.
They all sound scripted, dude.
But guess what? But here's where I now took you into my trap where I wanted to lead you. You said, well, what if we tried something different like Trump? But let me ask you a question. I want you to be honest with me. Can you tell me one policy Trump has in terms of how he's going to implement it? He says he wants to do what? He says healthcare is going to be better. I'm going to make it great. Tell me how he's going to do it. I haven't heard him say it yet.
That's a good point.
So why would you want someone new in?
He backed out of that debate with Megyn
Kelly. Yeah.
Of course he doesn't want to go up against her because she would hit him with the hard-hitting things, dude.
But why has nobody done it yet? That's the best thing about our democracy, our societies. It's so free-thinking. You can raise these issues, but nobody does it to him yet. And I'm surprised people who want to vote for him, the support he has, hasn't said, Donald, can you please explain to me how you are going to fix healthcare?
Have you seen the movie Idiocracy?
No, I haven't.
God damn it. I love when people say they have. Look up the movie Idiocracy.
Well, what's it about? Who directs it? Is it one of those like Michael Moore films?
It's made by Mike Judge, who made Beavis and Butthead, Office Space, and it's where Luke Wilson goes into the future, and they're all moronic, and he goes to like year 2505.
Oh, okay.
I'll write it down for you. Everything that's in that movie is happening now, and this came out in 05.
Interesting.
Rent it tonight from like whatever on-demand service you have. Trust me, the supporters of Trump are literally the cast of that movie.
Wow. Because I'll tell you what, it's actually Mike Judge, you say. Good show, Silicon Valley. He wrote. I love that show. You should watch that.
I've watched the first season and a half. I didn't watch the second half of the season.
I loved it. But I'll tell you this. I'm definitely going to check out Idiocracy because it does befuddle me how, you know, they should change the platform where you have to submit. And sometimes people hide these plans, like Trump waited to reveal his tax plan, which it made sense. That was one he did. Whether he could get that passed by Congress, that's another thing. And that's what worries me about Bernie, too, is, you know, he seems to have great ideas. He definitely wants to rock the boat and change, you know, politics. But yet, is Congress going to work with you and get your agenda passed? Because at the end of the day, you can have a president who's like Bernie, who has all these great ideas, wants to change the game. But if you get elected and you get into the White House and you can't, you know, enforce or get your agenda passed, you're pretty much a useless president. So people, when they're voting, they have to think of that too, is what president has experience working with Congress, maybe has relationships. And that's why Hillary's attractive to Democrats, because they know that she has a long legislative history of working when she was First Lady,
told me that
Secretary of
State.
When we
were talking off the mic.
Yeah.
I almost want her to be president just because she has experience. I'm like, whatever.
And that's what I was telling you. If you think about it, her resume, she's got more experience than any other person that's probably ever ran for the job. In the
How bad
is
the Benghazi thing?
In terms of how it's going to hurt her?
Overall, sure. How bad is that?
Well, it's bad in terms of what happened, but if you mean in terms of its effect on Hillary, people ask that all the time. I say this, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, because this is my opinion. If it was really that bad where it was going to hurt her, she would have had to drop out of running already. The fact that she can still sustain, lead in states, and is pretty much the front runner for the presidency, she wouldn't have been if Benghazi was that bad and was going to hurt her. They had a hearing. They brought her before it. This was in, I think, October, and she passed it with flying colors. Trey Downey was the one questioning her on the subcommittee, and he tried to rifle her left and right, and her numbers jumped after that hearing. So to me, Benghazi's not going to hurt her. She got through that whirlwind, and she's fine. The emails, when that's finally sorted out, that potentially could be an issue. But they've been after her about that still, and guess what? There's no moss on that. She's still the front runner.
I feel like they're sort of helping, let's say, cover it up for her. I don't know. I just don't trust them.
I don't have any evidence.
They're all rodents. Yeah. They're all awful human beings. They can all kiss my ass.
I don't know, man. I mean, listen, our political leaders are important, and we have to obviously respect those positions. But, obviously I think we just expect better from them, and they should be delivering better. And I think right now in the past couple of years, they haven't been.
Who are you going to vote for this year?
Remember, I told you I can't vote, unfortunately. I'm not an American citizen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Totally
I can't.
forgot.
Now,
Who would you vote for?
If I had a vote,
Yeah.
very good. If I had a vote right now, I'm torn. I can give you two candidates. I like Hillary as a Democrat right now. And if I had to go Republican, I like Kasich. His numbers aren't as strong. John Kasich, he's from Ohio.
He has no chance.
I think he's going to be the VP candidate for whoever gets the Republican nod. But I still like Rubio. And I like Kasich
I hate them all.
on the right. Those are my guys on the side. So, again, but it's too early. Like I said, I think people shouldn't have their minds made up already. That's why I don't. I'm still looking at these candidates and what their agendas are and how they debate and if they, can really inflict change in Washington. So, the election isn't until November, and it's only February 17th today, my sister's birthday. So,
happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Kristen. So if you think about it, it's still early. And this is something else you and I talked about off the mic, I think, earlier this afternoon, where I was telling you the people who were leading at this point in past elections, they looked great in February. In November, they weren't even on the ticket.
Yeah, you said Mitt
They
Romney
were
had no
gone.
chance in 08.
He had
Then
no
look at him.
chance. Yes, and even John McCain was losing to Rudy Giuliani at this time. So that's what I'm telling people. If you have your mind made up, who knows? Trump could probably make a mistake, and he's not going to be the front runner anymore. Who knows what comes out? Or Jeb Bush.
I don't know what
Jeb
he
Bush
would-
could actually climb. We don't know. He's behind. People who are in the back sometimes lead and actually come up to the front. So that's why I'm saying, if you're asking me right now, that's kind of where I'm at. You have to look at it. You can't be narrow-minded. You can't have your mind made up already sometimes, unless you're really passionate about it. That person's fixed on one issue that it may be important to you. But I can't be a single-issue voter. I worry about everything.
Now, before I let you go, you do so much.
Yes.
I can't even keep up with it. What's everything you do?
Well, right now, obviously, I just opened up my own firm. Before that, I was working as in-house legal counsel for a corporation here in Tampa. I'm also an adjunct professor of law at Thomas Cooley Law School, Western Michigan's campus in Riverview, where I teach corporate business planning. So I do those things as well. I also am involved in a couple of organizations. I don't want to actually toot my own horn about that on the air. So, I do a lot of that different stuff. I also have a drone company with my friend Joe Zamataro, dronecompliance.org. In order to use a drone, you got to register it with the FAA. You got to meet the 333 exemption. Our company helps you file those paperwork, fill out the information. You pay a fee. We get it done for you. You can fly your drone. So I got another company as well doing that too. So I got my hands in many, many different things, and I always try to stay busy, and I'm always looking to better myself.
Where can people get into contact with you?
You can go to my website, Fantetti Legal, if you need legal help. We do business law, corporate law. We represent corporations,
Shout
small
out to
businesses.
Law Smith for making the website.
Absolutely. Tokobega Consultant did a great job. I'm also on Twitter at Steven C. Fan. You can find me there. And, most importantly, I'm really trying to get my practice going. We do labor and employment law. We do business law. We do commercial real estate. We're trying to help businesses, like I said, medium, small, large, I'm a big proponent of business, and I think we should be protecting businesses and helping them, and that's what I focus my legal career on.
Well, dude, I've been trying to find someone to get on to talk about the law and everything like that. And a few people messaged me, but I didn't want to be a copycat of shows on the radio. But when you approached me, man, I digged your vibe immediately.
I appreciate
so you're
that.
definitely a friend of the show, and you're definitely a new segment.
Thank you.
We'll have to come up with some catchy name for it.
Listen, I will come back anytime you want me, man. I love your show.
Hell yeah, dude. This has been Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, saying peace out.
Hoppe Hour. Hoppe Hour.